Hey there, Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing their sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started. Hey there, real quick before we dive in. If you're a working mom who's constantly asking, how am I supposed to get it all done? Or you think most days something has to give, then stop what you're doing right now and add this to your calendar. So on October 20th, I'm hosting a live training called From Surviving to Thriving as a Working Mom. And inside, I'm breaking down the 3 exact shifts that I made that helped me finally stop feeling like I'm behind all the time. Actually in a place where I can enjoy putting my kids down to bed at night, even after long work days, and most especially still have time and energy left in the tank for me, for self-care without guilt. So this isn't fluff. It is the real life system that helped me go from burned out consultant and mom of 2 to running my house like an absolute boss in my career with more ease, clarity, and time freedom. It's happening on October 20th from 12 to 1:30 Eastern. So get that in your calendar. It's totally free. It's virtual and it will absolutely change the way you manage your time forever. I promise you. So even if you can't attend, if you were listening to this and you're saying, gosh, that sounds really great, and it's either on a day that you cannot attend, or if you're listening to it later and it's already passed, I still would love for you to register so that way you can get notified as soon as the next one happens. So pause the episode right now and go register at workingmomsmovement.com/live-training, or you can get the link in the show notes, but make sure you do it now before the day runs away from you. Okay, now let's tune in. Hey y'all, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. So inside this one, I'm excited to host Jill Wright. So if you have been tuning in for a while and like what you hear me talking about, ways that you can become more effective in life, then you're really going to love Jill. Jill is a time management expert, and she specifically supports professionals and parents and students with completely aligning their energy in a way that allows them to both boost their productivity and reduce burnout. So hearing that, you can probably appreciate why I have invited her on here today. She's also the author of a daily inspiration guide called Happy, Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. In addition to that, Jill just published a seasonal planner with built-in tools to support people with ADHD brains. That's called the Time Magic Planner, and I'm really looking forward to being able to dig in there with her later, and y'all will get to hear about that. So Jill, welcome to the Life Management System.
Thank you, Courtney, for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here with you.
Yeah, well, what's so funny about being here with Jill right now that y'all don't know is that I just literally took probably 10 minutes to repeat and repeat and repeat that introduction because I was botching it. So, as an efficiency expert, I am really dropping the ball right now. maybe we need the outtakes of all my ridiculous intros for you, Jill.
Yeah, like a blooper reel. That'd be so fun.
Exactly. Okay, so let's dig in. Specifically, you spend a lot of your time with busy people in general, whether they be professionals or parents or students, it doesn't matter, like people that just feel some sense of saturation. So when you think about all of the tips that are circulating out in the orbit, what do you believe one or two of the biggest lies are that people believe about productivity and what they should believe instead? Like putting you on the spot right there out of the gate, Jill.
No, I love it. This is such an important question. And I think you really nailed it when you teed it up and you said, like, there's a lot circulating out there. There is so much information. And one of the main sort of components of the way that I look at time management and efficiency is that we need to personalize it for each of us. So I love this question. Generally, if I'm looking at what's in the ethos out there of time management tips, 2 things come to mind in terms of like, please, can we shelve these forever? The first one is multitasking and this idea of doing more than one thing at once. There are some well-meaning tools out there, right? Like Tony Robbins talks about net time, no extra time, like stacking things on top of one another. There are tools out there, yes, that you can get more done in less time and be, quote, more efficient. And yet, at the end of the day, the science tells us multitasking is bad for our brains, it's bad for our productivity, it's bad for our efficiency. It's just something that we know more now, so it's one of those things like, better, you do better. Focus on one task at a time. is what I would say. The second sort of myth or lie with regards to time management and life management is that we can have it all. We can't have it all at once. And so it's so frustrating for us when we are given this idea of, yes, you can have it all, you can do it all, you can be it all. And then when we try, we realize we're dropping the ball somewhere. We personally, as the individual, like the listener, if you've ever tried that, then you feel the guilt and the blame and the shame because you're like, crap, so and so expert said we could do it all, but I'm having a real hard time. And I just want to give you a big old permission slip to remember that, yeah, maybe we can, quote, have it all. But I think we really need to understand what it all means to each of us because it's going to be different. And it might not be having all of the pieces in every season.
So it's not that I disagree with you, but that's a really interesting point because I talk about that a lot here. My take is that you can have it all, but you can't do it all. Those are two different
Ooh,
things.
yeah.
So you can do it all or you can have it all if you delegate. You can have it all if
Yeah.
you lower your standards. Like if you stay true to what it is you value, which Jill, I know you talk a lot about as well. So as an example, like I feel like I have it all. I feel like I do, but if you like I have a nice house, I I work out, I put my priorities there, but what I don't prioritize that I just talked about this in the podcast a couple weeks ago is like my car. I drive a 2013 car. It is, I don't know, 170,000 miles on it. And meanwhile, my neighbor drives a brand new car off the lot every 2 years. Like in my mind, having it all for some people maybe is having that shiny car, but because I'm clear in what I prioritize, I'm able to let that go. And I know that what you were talking about was time management specifically, but I also wanted to call that out because I know you and I both believe and talk about the need to be aligned with what it is that you value.
Mhm.
And right? You spend a lot of time and energy talking about that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that like to me, like you could have it all, but it's got to be what it is that you define and it's got to be what it is that is worth your dedicated energy, which is very different than
Mm.
being able to do it all yourself or whatever it may be. But I think that you're spot on though as it relates to you can't have it all and do it all yourself. That's just physically impossible. There are 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of undue pressure on people that they feel like they're looking left and right and being like, how the heck are they doing that stuff? But what you're not seeing is all the chaos that's probably happening behind the scenes or all the balls that they're dropping because there's no way that other people are doing anything more than you are. They're just doing things either differently or they're putting their energy in different places.
100%. And it's like, you're so right in that. I think we're saying like same thing, right? From
Yes, or
different
it's like
angles.
definitely agreeing. It's just funny how we've like the way that we capture it is different.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the same message though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we really need to be clear on what is important to us and we need to dial that in because there's so much noise and there's so much comparison that's happening,
Yeah.
especially for moms right now. And it's like, but is it important to you? You know, like, do you
Yeah.
even want that thing? Why are you
Exactly.
working so hard to have it? Do you really even
Yeah.
want it?
Yeah. The comparison problem is actually really, I think, the biggest thief of, I always tell my boys, comparison is a thief of joy. And I think that is also just as applicable for us. When you see other people accomplishing something or doing something that doesn't align with what it is that you actually aspire to for yourself or experience you aspire to have for you or your family, then you're ultimately holding yourself hostage,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah. Totally
So,
agree.
I want to go back to that multitasking part too, because I mean, I just thought I had a superwoman cape on that I could multitask like a queen. And I was so humbled. It's probably about 10 years ago. I was going through a immersive learning experience, for lack of a better term, where we essentially played games and it gave you insights about yourself. And this is what kicked off my entire profession in culture transformation and like really the human psychology. But I played this game that got to test my ability to multitask. And essentially, you had to read a paragraph and you had 30 seconds to read this paragraph. And it was this, and by paragraph, I mean, it was two sentences. And you had to read those two sentences and you had to read it and interpret it for meaning. And then you had to count the F's in the sentence. and I couldn't do it. I got it wrong. And it was such an eye opener for me to realize, like, oh, you actually cannot fundamentally multitask. So, now I've come a long way. I've spent the past 11 years in human behavior and psychology through the culture transformation work that I do. But daggone, man, that was a humbling experience for somebody who thought that I was so good at it. And women in
Well,
particular are told that we're better. And to your point, like, we might be better, but that doesn't mean anybody's good at it.
no, and it's something that we were taught growing up to wear as a badge of honor. Like, I'm a good multitasker. I don't know how many times I said that in a job interview. Like, what's one of your strengths? Oh, I'm a good multitasker.
Yeah.
And it's looking funny looking back when you really dig in and you sort of assess yourself. I mean, all brains are different, and some people are able to do it in a more smooth way. But for most of us, the quality of work that we do when we're working on more things than one is severely reduced, and the time it takes because you're switching gears, right?
Mhm.
It it's wild when you really start to self-assess about this.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point because I'm sure I said the same thing. If you asked me what my strengths were, it would be multitasking. Very good point. Okay, so let's pull in that thread of energy a little bit more because you do talk a lot about energy alignment. So when I think about my audience, almost predominantly working moms, let's call it 98% of the people tuning in are. And then there's my husband. God bless him, always out there supporting me. Thank you, Richard. uh, so knowing that most of them are already feeling very exhausted, very overextended, what's the first step that you would recommend to them to start to align the way they spend their time with how they expend their energy?
This is a big one because we all struggle with this. And the first thing that I get people to do is get quiet. And what I mean by get quiet is find a time, even if it starts as like 1 to 2 minutes, but find a time that you can dedicate to being alone and being quiet every day. Because what that does is, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but like in the shower is when I get my best ideas, right? Or like right before bed as I'm like slowly, and then I'm like, oh my God, all these creative ideas. The reason that these things come in is because you've given some space, you've turned your brain off a bit, you've turned the inputs that are normally bombarding you, you've turned those off, and you're just existing as you. And a lot of us don't take the time to just exist as ourselves. And so we don't really know what would be in alignment with us because we don't know ourselves anymore. And especially as moms, it's like we spend so much energy taking care of others, making sure others are well set up, that they have what they need. We're taking care of their emotions, we're taking care of their physical needs, and our own essence can get lost. And so, where we start with trying to rediscover ourselves is just taking a few dedicated moments a day to be quiet. And you'll start to hear those, like, whether it's intuition or like those nudges of your personality sort of come back, and then you almost get addicted to it, right? You're like, oh yes, that girl, I remember her, I want to reconnect with her. And then when you can do that, and when you can figure out, okay, what's important to me, what are my values, where do I want to spend my time, you can start to intentionally bring that into your day-to-day framework. But you need that base, because if we're just saying I'm going to align my time with my values without really discovering what your values are, it's a wasted exercise, in my view.
Yeah, I love that. And um, it's something that I've actually had to work for myself
Yeah.
because I feel like if there's 5 minutes that I'm just sitting there, it's 5 minutes wasted. And it's taken me many, many, many years of actually getting to experience what it's like to just be able to sit in your thoughts, to appreciate that it's almost what I hear you saying when you comb through the noise, Jill, is you need to slow down in
Mm,
order to speed up.
yes.
And I'll link this in the show notes, but uh, it got so bad for me that I actually invested in a notepad for my shower because that is where I do all of my great thinking. Because what else are you doing besides lathering up? It's just is such great think time that I'm like, I need to make sure I don't lose these thoughts because that's when, particularly when I was doing a lot of building presentations and a lot of decks. Like I feel like that's all I did for the past 15 years is build presentation after presentation after presentation. So that was when like the deep methodologies were hit me, or I'd see the connectivity between the story that I'm trying to build. I'm like, oh, that was really good. So all that deepest thinking really happens in my showers. And I'm like, I cannot afford for these ideas to get flushed down the drain. I got to be able to capture them. But it's amazing what happens when you create that breathing room for yourself to do that.
Yeah, and it doesn't even need to be extra time you need to carve out or find or make, right? It can be moments that already exist. You can use the shower, you can use your pee break, you can use your when you're heating up your food in the microwave and you're pumping your gas. You can like any of these little micro moments where we're just by ourselves. The the intention behind just tuning in and listening is what really kickstarts that experience.
That might be the most profound thing you'll say this entire hour. And I think it's so important because oftentimes we have a tendency to pick up our phone, even to your point, pee break or pumping gas. Those are two really easy opportunities for you to just take 30 seconds to just be, where you're literally not adding anything else to your calendar. All you're doing is just giving yourself permission to be. And I think that that's a really important, that's great advice, very practical to implement. So thank you for sharing that, Jill. So, okay, let's talk about you for a little minute, if you don't mind indulging. You're a mom of four. First of all, God bless you. Thank you. So Malcolm Gladwell, he's Canadian, right?
Yes, yeah.
Also, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. He Malcolm Gladwell, I remember, I think it was maybe Tipping Point. Um Once upon a time was talking about how in order for society to essentially keep up with the pace of growth that we have now, that more affluent families need to be having kids because they're the ones that actually, that really contribute to the ecosystem to stabilize on behalf of the world. So, Jill, on behalf of the rest of us, thank you for procreating. Good for you. Full house, full heart, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's
Yeah.
it's very fun at the same
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Okay. So, one of your kids is neurodivergent, and because of that, or in addition to that, it has helped really groom this passion for you, particularly around supporting people with ADHD and autism and time blindness. So, when you think about your kids specifically, and really all four of them, because kids as a whole just beat to their own drum. And they're all very different drums, apparently. One's a snare and one's a bass, or, whatever it may be. When you think about what your kids have taught you about time and capacity and the illusion of control, what really comes to mind?
Yeah, well, first of all, what's coming to mind is my own little rhythm section of like, because I'm a band nerd, so I'm just like, oh, okay, all the drums.
Oh, so that
But
actually resonated with you, that analogy. How about that?
totally. Past that, I think the thing that was most eye-opening for me, and each each time you have a new kid, I really feel like you become a new mom because you're learning the kid and the new dynamic in the household, and like everything changes, right? When you introduce somebody, which makes sense. But as I see the unique personalities within the kids, it has really shifted the focus of the work that I do into making sure that we're taking the individual personality into account when we're building tools to support people, whether it be in time or in in the household or whatever. But acknowledging the differences, like I really feel that treating each kid the same way is not equality, right? Like giving the kids each what they need is equality, and they're each going to need different things. And specifically, when they're small, I remember struggling so hard with toddler time and just everything being slow. And even just this morning, my 6-year-old came, she's in gymnastics camp and she's got like a blister right in the middle of her hand, right? And so from the gymnastics bars and all that. Um, and I was trying to wipe her hands after breakfast, and I just grabbed one real quick and I gave it a wipe. And she's like, "Oh, mom, that's my blister. That's where." I'm like, "Oh, slow down, Jill. You don't need to go so quick." And the kids always teach me this when they're trying to get their boots on for the winter and like learning how to tie their shoes. My tendency is like, go, go, go. We got places to be. We got things to do. I am running on a linear time system here because I am living in a grown up world and they aren't. And it really reminds me of the flow of time, how we maybe can dive more into cyclical understanding of like rhythms of the day and routines of the day as opposed to a strict timeline. So for me, just being the mom to so many has shown me that it's okay if we approach things slower and take the time to really tweak so that everyone is set up for success in their own way where they feel like safe, you know?
Yeah, I fully appreciate what you just shared. And your example brings a little bit of PTSD back when I think about trying to get my boys suited up for snow season. Like anytime we go skiing or whatever, those early years, man, when they have all the layers, nothing will teach you patience more than trying to get a child ready to go skiing.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So what I'm hearing too, that just to parallel this to something, a concept I often talk about is the notion of breathing room. Because
Mm.
my clients that have more than just 1 to 2 kids, three to four kids, the notion of breathing room in your schedule is so important because otherwise that's when you feel that time crunch and when you start to rush them. And then as soon as you start to rush them, that's when they decide, you know what? I can play this game. And and they'll go toe to toe with you because they will not have it because you are then treating them, to your point, Jill, not to what they need, but to what you need. And I know personally I benefited from adding breathing room to my schedule. There's probably a lot of other people here that are listening too that can relate to what you just said and like, oh, snap. Yeah, I am trying to rush through a very important part of my day because or I mean a very a very common part of our day because I am flowing on that linear time frame, which our kids just frankly are not.
They're not. And honestly, when we think about it, like yes, and when you're in the thick of it and you're busy and you've got all the kids and you've got a job and like you have places to be, but when you think about it, it's it takes a lot longer, at least for me, to deal with a tantrum, settle down after the tantrum, still have to do the task than it would have taken me to just put a little bit of extra space to accommodate in the beginning and then the task is done. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's I get this objection or this sort of this pushback a lot like, yeah, but I don't have time to add in extra time. And I'm like, but do you have time for the tantrum? Do you have time for the
Yeah.
the consequence that happens when your kid falls out because they couldn't transition quick enough or and it's not just, with kids and it's in all areas. If we rush through something, we can make mistakes and then we have to redo it. Who has
Yeah.
time for that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you just pulled in is really important. And I know it's made a difference for me too. It doesn't just help me become more intentional with the way that I engage with the kids and the way that we navigate our day, but it's helped me with myself too, because I used to be an industrial and systems engineer here. We study a concept called just in time in the lean manufacturing Six Sigma space. So JIT. So JIT is essentially the notion that you don't have anything to waste. You want things to happen exactly when they're supposed to happen because that's ultimately the way that you're going to maximize your output. Okay, that works with a widget on a machine. That
Right.
does not work with people. So I used to operate from this JIT, like just in time mindset for arriving to functions, arriving to an appointment, that sort of thing. But what I was finding is that similar to trying to get the kids out to the door, that was actually amping up my stress level because then I'm looking at my clock and being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a minute late. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a minute late. So I'm adding to my own problems merely by operating off of that just in time mindset. So even creating just, 2 to 5 minutes of breathing room for myself when I'm doing something has made a difference. So that
Yeah.
way I'm not amping up my cortisol. Worst case scenario, I get somewhere early and I get to sit there in silence, or I get to sit there on my phone, or I get to sit there and catch up with somebody that I recognize. Like it's really a much better problem than always chronically feeling stressed because I'm feeling the risk of being behind.
Right? Or like what happens if you blow a tire or there's an accident that causes traffic and all of a sudden you're not in control anymore. Whereas if you gave yourself a little buffer time, you have much more control over what you do with those extra minutes. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, if you get there early, you can choose. You can choose what
Yeah.
to do with them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, end of every or the beginning of every calendar year, I always try to choose a new small micro habit to introduce. And this year, I have two. One is I'm trying to stretch my hamstrings while I brush my teeth, and the other is actually like being more intentional with giving myself 3 to 5 minutes every time I leave the house. And it's made such a difference. Do New Year's resolutions, Jill, or anything of the sort?
Yeah, I've been doing like a word of the year, like an intention to follow. And it's funny, for probably 3 years, I was able to hold that word in my mind pretty frequently and reflect back on it. This year, for whatever reason, I feel like I've had already 3 years within 2025. And so the seasons have been such that I need to change my intention or my word more frequently than the 365 days. So I don't know, for whatever reason this year I've sort of had like my New Year's word 1.0, 2.0, 3.0.
Oh, but I think that's fantastic. That's for me, it's like the reason I do what I do is just to introduce a new habit, but similar to you, once I feel like I've confidently got that habit, then I'm able to move on to something else. So sometimes I'm able to add habit 2 or habit 3 before the next year cycle's over.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go back to um, this theme of ADHD and time blindness, because I know that while some of the listeners themselves also relate to that, many of them, their kids do, and kids in general do. I mean, even before you really understand what a unit of time means and can appreciate the length of it, there, even at most ages, time blindness exists. So what do you believe some of the common mistakes are with people that either have ADHD or their kids do, or their, time blindness exists, to help them try to stay organized?
Yeah, for sure. When it comes down to it, we need to be able to support our executive functioning. Our kiddos, when they're small, they don't have any executive functioning to speak of, and that's something that comes with age and experience. But also, people who have neurodiversities also struggle with executive functioning, and so of course um, we can't organize, we can't prioritize, we're not able to get a handle, quote, right, on our time. And so people can feel really behind. And I wouldn't necessarily say they are common mistakes that I see, but challenges rather for people who are in this situation. They are often running late. They are often not able to get started on a project. It's sort of this like failure to launch on things, even if it's something they really want to prioritize and they want to bring into their life. They're like, why can't I make this happen? Right? It's not lack of motivation. It's that initiating of tasks, right? And then, of course, another big thing that people can struggle with is being able to organize their tasks in a way where you're prioritizing something over another. Prioritizing is an area that I really focus on specifically with people who have ADHD, and I do it with my kiddos too. It's like, okay, the kids will bombard me with like 10 things they want to do in an afternoon, and we have to stop and say, okay, let's list these out. Let's figure out. And sometimes I'll even use post-it notes and we'll like move one. Is this more important than next? No, it goes below. Okay. Well, is this one more important? Okay, cool. That one will go to the top so we can visually see it. And so some of the things that I will encourage people to do, specifically if they have ADHD or some problem with time blindness, executive functioning, whatnot, is use external supports, right? Relying on your willpower, your motivation, your memory, that doesn't work. That's just not something that is feasible in these particular situations. And so getting timers, specifically analog timers, like if you can see the click and hear the click of the timer, much more impactful for you to be able to track time than just seeing it digitally, right? Also using timers strategically instead of setting the timer for like, okay, I have to switch tasks at this time. I'll set the timer for this time. Give yourself 5 minutes in advance. Like you were saying, breathing room, like when you're leaving the house, set your timer for 5 or 10 minutes before you need to go, because you're going to have to find your keys. You're going to need to go to the bathroom. You're going to need to grab your sweater, and you don't necessarily factor that in. Right. And so if you're only setting your timer at the time to go, you're still going to be 10 minutes late. Um, Using color coding, using visual differentiators specifically. And this is one of the things that I worked into the planner was we've got shading for morning, afternoon, evening, like showing the chunks of the day rather than just lines for each hour, because that we can just gloss over that. Right. And I think another thing that's really important for people who have ADHD or some challenges with managing their time is making sure that you're really bringing in excitement, joy, like doing something to give you that little dopamine hit, because ADHD is essentially like it's a dopamine addiction in a lot of ways. We can boil it down to that, and that's sort of the problem. And so, if we're able to give our brain what it's looking for and keep it on task, that really makes a big difference.
Yeah, one of the tips that I always give my clients is to use a song as their timer. Like
Love it.
find an upbeat song because it allows you to really know that for that dedicated 3 to 5 minutes that the song will last, that's what you're doing. You get to stay on task, you get to pump through it. Everybody in your family is doing the same thing, and that's going to inherently help you keep on task too. But the song really, to your point, Jill, gets to lift the spirit. I've never really thought about it from the perspective of the neurodivergency being a dopamine hit, though. That's a really interesting parallel a good insight for me. Um, can we go back for a second to initiating tasks?
Yeah.
Because that is something that also is very hard for many of my clients and a lot of the women. I spend a ton of time in my DMs just trying to get to know my audience, which is, the fun part for me to get to engage directly. For anybody that struggles with initiating tasks, what would you recommend they do?
Yeah. This is a big one that's come to light for me specifically recently. I had a client who this was like we spent our whole session on this one topic for her, and it prompted me to create like a cheat sheet that I'll give you the link. So I'll give you a few of the top tips here, but there's lots of things that you can do actually to trick your brain into getting started. One of the ones is very similar to what you were just talking about with the song, but like creating a sensory routine so that your brain can associate the song with the task, right? And so all of a sudden you hear the song, it's Pavlov, right? You do the task, and creating those connections can be really helpful, because once it's in your brain, it's no longer it's subconscious instead of being something you have to consciously think about. And once it's subconscious, it becomes a habit. You're good. That's where we want these things to live, right? We want them to just be part of autopilot and how we run our day. Another thing that you can do is to gamify. This is an interesting one that's talked a lot about in the neurodivergent community, but I think we can all use this idea. Like, okay, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. I'm just going to see how much I can get done, right? Like one of my clients loves to do this when she's cleaning the kitchen. She's like, I'm literally going to clean for 5 minutes. I'm going to challenge myself, see how much I can get done. She gets done more than she thinks she could within the 5 minutes, but also she often will just finish up the job, and it only takes 7 or 8 minutes. But she wouldn't have started it if she knew it was going to take closer to 7 or 8. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Also, breaking things down into ridiculously small expectations is a good way to get started on a project. And again, it will snowball, because if you're setting up to do podcast editing, let's say, right? After we're done recording, you have a whole, people don't realize, but you have a whole behind the scenes process that has to happen
Mm-hmm.
for this to get into their ears. And so instead of putting on your calendar, like edit Jill's podcast episode, you might not want to do that. You might feel like, oh, I'll just push that off, right? And instead, if you're like, title Jill's podcast episode, that's one small thing. That's much more likely that you're going to do that. And then the next small thing, right? And so if we can take small steps towards something, even if we only do that one and we come back to it later, we're training our brain that like, do the thing, I can complete it. I can show success completing something because it's so small. And then you're building momentum. You're building sort of that muscle of completing tasks.
Mhm. Well, then you also get that dopamine hit too of like, look what
Hmm.
I just did. And it just motivates you to do more and more. One of the things that's really helped me as well, that one of my clients in particular was keen on, is timing yourself. So going
Mm.
back to editing a podcast episode. Well, if I think about that in its whole, that's really intimidating. But if I time myself consistently and I'm like, okay, it really only takes me this amount of time to do it, it's a lot less intimidating than think it's this huge monumentous day job thing. Now, editing a podcast episode is a lot harder than that, but the example that my client always used was the dishwasher. She's like, I know it only takes me 2 minutes to unload the dishwasher. Why is it such a burden on me? It takes 2 minutes, and there's just something freeing about knowing that this task that just feels like the biggest ball and chain really at the end of the day only takes 2 minutes, and that alone was enough to just kind of free her of that burden.
Yeah, it's really getting an understanding because we will over or underestimate the time it takes us to do things. And
Yeah.
if we can get some real data in there, I know both you and I are like, what are the facts? Where is the data,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
so if we can get that, then we can use that. And then I'll always tell my clients, like, okay, figure out how long that task actually takes you, and then write the amount of time next to it on your to-do list so that you can see it in black and white. And you're like, okay, I've got half an hour. What on my to-do list can I do in half an hour? And you
That's
know you
good.
can because you've timed yourself.
That's really good. I like that. I like that idea a lot. Okay, so before we move to lightning round questions, I do want to hear more about the Time Magic Planner, which is your new tool. I'm not going to infer anything about it. I'm going to just turn the mic over to you, Jill, to tell us a little bit more about what it is, who might want to use it, what they might get out of it, and that sort of thing. And I'll, of course, include where to find it in the show notes.
Thank you. It's so exciting because it's literally just launched yesterday. I mailed out the first round of orders. So it's very fresh and there's a lot of energy around it right now. So the Time Magic Planner is a 90-day seasonal planner tool. So think about an agenda, like a weekly planner, right? Many of us anyways, will have a paper planner or a system on our phone or our computer that we use to show us like what's coming up when in our lives. It's kind of a non-negotiable these days because we're so busy. We need to do some sort of planning and tracking of what's coming up or we'll forget about it. And so I've tried them all. I've tried all the planners. I love a paper planner personally. I like to have pen and paper because I can visually see when the overwhelm is going to be as compared to looking at it digitally that kind of gets lost in the mix. And I didn't find a planner that suited all of my particular needs. I didn't want it to be fancy in terms of like I got distracted when there were stickers and goal setting and time management and all the things. Like it was too much. And I just wanted a tool to help me get through the week, right? And 90 days was a much more realistic time frame for me than a year because I would find I'd get bored of the same planner, or I would have way too much highlighting and whiting out and changing of things because everything changes. Best laid plans, right? They all change. And so my planner would look messy and I didn't like that and I wanted to start a fresh one, right? So 90 days was specific in terms of how long the planner is. It is monthly calendars and weekly calendars that any busy person can use to do a weekly planning framework where they take a look ahead. They intentionally put in time for the things that are important to them that they need to do, but also building in time for the things that they want to do. And so it follows the time magic framework, which incorporates time management, like productivity, as well as rest and self-care. We try to build that all in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. And as I was building it, I was also doing the research on ADHD and worked in a bunch of tools that this planner would be really good for anyone who is not only just a neurotypical, but someone who has some sort of neurodiversity, whether it be autism or ADHD or something like that, some kind of challenge that they face. And there's lots of tools that are built right in that help you overcome some of these challenges that we had talked about earlier in the episode as well. So it's really ADHD friendly in that regard. And it's just been a super fun project, but getting to see how people use it has been like the most exciting for me.
Oh, I bet. Well, congratulations on
Thanks.
the launch of that. That's a big deal, and I'm excited to be able to showcase that in the show notes and help you promote it, Jill, because I do believe that there are a lot of people in my hemisphere that would benefit from it. So,
Yeah.
congratulations. Okay, let's pivot to wrap this up with the lightning round questions, which I ask every guest that attends. The first one: what's your go-to stress busting activity?
Naps.
Ooh, you're a good napper?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a gift. My
It's a
husband
skill.
can go to sleep and like, yeah, he can go to sleep immediately, get a solid 20-minute nap in and wake back up and feel refreshed. Oh my gosh, I would give anything to be able to do that. Um, okay, next, what's the last book or podcast you loved?
Like a Mother by Julie Cole. Not only because it's like so similar to my brand, I'm like, oh my God, I have to have you on my podcast because that's like, anyways, but
Yeah.
she's the founder of a brand called Mabel's Labels. I don't know if you guys have that in the States, but they're like labels for kids for water bottles and t-shirts and stuff at school.
Yeah.
She has 6 kids. And so this book is all about her experience. One of them is autistic as well. Her experience with juggling 6 kids, one with special needs, and then building up a multi-million-dollar business at the same time. It's really good.
Oh, that's so cool. I think I'd really enjoy reading that.
Yeah.
Okay, next, if you could wave a magic wand, what task would you eliminate forever?
Cooking dinner.
You don't need to cook dinner, Jill. Get rid of it. That's what but you're not the first person that said that on here. I'm like, y'all just don't do it. I don't do
Hey,
it. I hate
there's
cooking
an app for
dinner.
that.
Huh?
There's an app for that.
There's an app. There's not. Yeah, exactly. There's a you push the easy button there. Yeah, I don't cook. I don't enjoy it either. So I get rid of that. It's not worth it. Okay, last question, Jill. How do people find you? And particularly the resources and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I will direct everyone to the website because everything is there. It's just my name, jillwright.ca, because I'm Canadian. And everything is there. You can tune to the podcast. You can grab the book, which is like a page a day inspirational type of guide. The planner is there and my quiz, all the things, as well as then it'll link you to the socials. I'm Grow Like a Mother on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, I will make sure to include all of that. But Jill, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here. Being able to connect with you and share space with you in general over the past couple of months has been a delighter because you and I are fighting very much for the same things. And my gift and wish for all of our listeners, both on your podcast and mine, is that they get to a place of peace. And that's kind of where you started with this. Like, how do we create that breathing room and space for ourselves to slow down? And I think that you have a lot of magic, bada bing, in helping make that possible for people. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be in your orbit. And we should link your episode on my podcast so people can listen to your wisdom over there too.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I like that idea. Okay, well, friends, thank you for tuning in. If you have not gotten my free guide on how to productively manage your to-do list, that is something that Jill and I also share in common. I will link that in the show notes. But the whole point is to keep it from overwhelming and controlling you, but from a very different place and way that Jill does. So I think we complement each other well. It has been a pleasure having her on. Until next time, friends, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You got this, mama. Hey friend, thanks for tuning in. Add the Life Management System podcast to your favorites so you don't miss my practical, snack-sized tips to help you manage the mental load and create a life that works for you. If we're not yet connected on Instagram, come say hi at Working Moms Movement for daily inspiration. And if this is your third or 10th time listening, it's time you bless the small business. Share this episode with another working mom in the thick of it and take 30 seconds to rate and review. It helps more than you know. And if you're ready to go from surviving to thriving and make your day-to-day actually sustainable, email me at Courtney@workingmomsmovement.com. Mention this podcast for 25% off my coaching services. I also speak and host workshops for organizations that want to support working parents from the inside out. Reach out if you think yours is ready. This has been the Life Management System, your shortcut to less chaos and more calm. And here's your reminder to keep managing your life instead of letting it manage you.